player will put the pressure on you now in this picks and bans phase.
Yeah, not only that, the Sejuani as well, as they were talking on the analyst desk, later on into the game, not a whole lot he could do. Even though it was a comfort pick from Dan, it didn't work out. What else does he have? We know he has a lot, but not all of it works necessarily. There's the Elise ban coming in from Dig, so not going to see that.
So, do we see the Gangplank? I honestly feel like it's been a non-factor so far in this series. They're not going to ban it away. This time they're going to completely take away the potential for the Protect the Cogmore. If Team Dignitas have been scrimming with it, they'll first pick it, I assume, since it hasn't been banned. But I don't even feel like it's particularly worthwhile for Team Dignitas. Like, we've seen no evidence outside of one game that Wonderwear has played to say that first pick Gangplank would even be a good factor.
And now Beansy will have the Gangplank himself. But yeah, first pick was the Rek'Sai from Dignitas, again taking that away from Dan, so he can't just sit on the Rek'Sai, do what he does every game. It forces him onto a different jungle and doesn't have to take it right now. Mouse have multiple options of what they want to go for here. The Sivir is taken off the table, so Corki might be a priority because that is a big pick for both Sejun and Kobe.
Yes, it has been. So if that is a first rotation Corki, they kind of risk, though, the problems that the analyst desk were talking about, where if you pick Corki, you pick the Azir, you then kind of struggle to get on to any kind of sense of getting into the backline. However, with the Lulu banned away, it's not going to be the AD carry composition, but it is going to be a very similar set of picks out for Mousesports.
Early Azir as well coming in from Mouse. Again, we'll see how it works out, but Dignitas have a lot of freedom to think about how they're going to work against that one. Alistair will just be a straight-up solid support coming in for the bot lane, not giving all that much away from that, but the Azir again early on. So
now do Team Dignitas default to the Victor that they've been playing, or does Senkux go for something different? We know he has a wide champion pool. We know he's played champions like Zyra, like Yasuo previously. I don't think either of those are going to be particularly good in this situation. We'll see what is left in the playbook for Team Dignitas. They're going to try and go for it again, this time with a different setup.
Well, they have the Janna, they have the Cogmore, so that's going to go over to Dignitas. They could run another composition, as you mentioned, like last game, without the Lulu. Could go like an Orianna mid lane again, like a tank top. They still have the tools and picks available for them to do that, but I mean, they're showing their hand now. Mousesports know what they're going for.
Right, I mean, the other side of this is this could be a double bluff. It could be mid lane Cogmore. It is still a flex pick. Haven't seen too much of it outside of Power of Evil and Pepinero being on that Cogmore in the recent weeks, but even then we've seen a drop-off of AP Cog just in favor of like the Varus from mid lane instead. So still options available for Team Dignitas. Nothing really shown too early on. Mouse, they're going to have to look for either the Corki, which isn't the best matchup against the Cogmore, or look for something else, as they are hovering over the Caitlyn. We have seen a Caitlyn game from Cedrian. It did not go well. 1-3-0 was the scoreline from that game.
Yeah, and the Caitlyn will be locked in, along with the Lee Sin coming in for Dan this time around. So looking very much for that early game here.
Well, that is one way of getting towards the back line. Still difficult, though. You're going to have to utilize that kick as best as possible.
Maybe even harder.
Yeah, that's kind of my thinking now. And I still think this could be a bit of a double bluff here with the Cogmore. What are you saying lock it to, the Vayne or the Gangplank?
Both.
Lock Vayne Gangplank. That would be certainly a different setup. We haven't seen Vayne out of Kobe at all. Now that he's got a lot of different options available to him, he's seen the Caitlyn. So you know you're basically against somebody that's going to push pretty quickly and has a lot of range. So what do you go for? What do you look to scale with potentially for Team Dignitas? That answer is going to get set up soon. Ooh.
Icebird.
Okay, so Senkux has been playing a lot of Anivia recently, particularly against Sivir, which is what we saw just earlier this week from Nukeduck, actually. And I was actually having a conversation with Senkux about Nukeduck's Anivia, because it turns out these Team Dignitas and Roccat, the reason Roccat played Anivia, partly, is because of Senkux Anivia and the different build that Senkux was going for. So it's normally a pick against the Sivir. At this point, Lee Sin is going to have difficulty getting through the Anivia. As soon as you go through the wall. There's no way back out of that one. So it's an interesting setup. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to work, but there's a lot of protection once again from this Cogmore. It's a different style. This time it's hard terrain that is going to be between the Cogmore and his enemies.
And also the Maokai was picked up for the top lane, so they'll have a bunch of engage and peel in from that pick. Looking to see what the response will be from Mouse. It's going to be the Gnar. So yeah, we've seen that matchup a bunch of times in the top lane, but yeah, the biggest things in this game is definitely the Azir coming in from Zio and the Anivia from Senpai.
There's an interesting dynamic here with this Gnar pickup.
What's that, Stress?
Anivia puts a wall up, could end up killing her whole team. With, of course, that will provide terrain for the Gnar. Fairly clear-cut plan from Team Dignitas once again. This time they got a lot of zone control in these team fights to keep Cobby alive. On the other side of Mousesports, it's a bit more of a sporadic skirmish style here with the Lee Sin, with the Azir. There is obviously that team fight component where you've got the Gnar ultimate coming through and Caitlyn from range. So it may be difficult for Team Dignitas to get onto the Caitlyn, but at the same time, if everybody else is dead, it's not a factor.
Yeah, not a problem. You just kill everyone before that happens. And once again, the coaches finding each other. You come here off. We'll be heading off stage. Maybe for the last time today. This could be a 3-1 over to Dignitas in this series. But Mouse, if they play it well, could still come back. They have the Lee Sin. Again, it's going to be very difficult to get to that back line. And if he doesn't land the Q, or even if he does, there's still a bird to stop you. But again, potentially for the last time today, use those hashtags. Tweet at LOL Esports using DEU in or MOU, and we'll be checking in on what you think in game. But this is intense. This could be the last time we see these two teams play together on this stage today.
Could be. We've still got the possibility of that Game 5. If Mouse can come back into this one, if they can lock down Cobby, this one still could go to a Game 5. But certainly, it's going to be another tough one as Team Dignitas are looking to protect Cobby once again, and it worked so very well in the last game.
Yes, it did. Okay, so Mouse heading out into the top side of the map here. A fan coming in from Dignitas EU. So they should be able to spot this out. The main goal here is to not get caught by the encroaching Mouse lineup.
Yes, we'll see how well that goes. Saplings are going to come out from Maokai, so he will be able to see it, but he's going to check. Forced to flash. That's going to be the end of it, but that is the early flash blown, and Mouse now get to control the top side jungle as well. They will trade it for control over the bottom side, as Team Dignitas will go in and ward on the other side of the map.
Yeah, so not going to hurt them too much, but it will get them that early lane swap ward in both of the positions, so in lane and also the base gate, so they will have 100% knowledge if Dignitas go for lane swap. Dignitas, Cobby and Nisbet are going back to base. They will know that the wards are there, so they may just wait in their base for a couple seconds and wait for Mouse to commit to a lane before doing much else, but Sejun and Mountain have already sat on the top side of the map. Mountain is going back, and Sejun is staying. This series has been really not even different from what we were kind of expecting, but so many people talking about Senkux coming into this one. And, you know, Senkux is a player that for the last year has been talked about so highly when it comes to he's going to make the LCS. He's going to be the next big mid laner that comes into the LCS. And, you know, he wasn't old enough after the spring qualifiers or spring playoffs, but this series has not been about Senkux. This series has been so much more about Cobby as a player. Currently, from the 3 games, he's 13, 4, and 12. Has the highest kill participation of Team Dignitas and the highest KDA, especially in the last game where he went unkilled. Just insane performance so far from Cobby. If he can keep this up, as we said, Team Dignitas 1 game away. A lot is on his shoulders again, but the last game proved that you can kind of rely on it. You can, and this time around they're still running in the Cogmore, but it's definitely not all the eggs in that basket. As there is a Nivea in the mid lane, flash backwards from Sayo. The flash thrust lands onto him with the frostbite as well. The flash in from Dan, lands the Q onto Senkux, looks for the follow-up, the hop onto Dan, and that's first blood over to Beansu, looking for another kill onto Senkux. Doesn't have his passive pop just yet, but nice first blood with that roam from Mouse.
Team Dignitas try and make a play in mid lane, and I don't know why you try and make that play when Wonderwear has no flash. Because you know that Sayo is going to flash away from that. Once you get the flash, that's all you want. But if you don't have the read on where Mouse are on the map, it's tough to actually take that 100% and say we're going to come out ahead from this. Now Wonderwear is in a lot of trouble, and one of the biggest things whenever we've seen a Maokai pick throughout the entirety of the summer split, it's been such a big discussion, is if you don't get gold onto the Maokai, it is almost impossible to get a Maokai into the game and be worthwhile. And right now, he's got to try and sit somehow in a solo lane against a Caitlyn and not get poked down and somehow get gold from this. Team Dignitas are going to end up sacrificing so much when it comes to Wonderwear.
And, you know, Mouse could just keep up the camp. We saw how brutal that's been for, like, Steve in the LCS, where it's just like, well, I died for first blood, now I'm going to die an additional 5 times because I'm just not given any breathing room. Wonderwear will just have to leave the lane and look for farm elsewhere, try and be useful elsewhere on the map. Top lane should be going down to Dignitas EU in the top lane. Bot lane will be going up to Cedrian as this minion wave is now evaporating.
Mouse are on the dragon at the same time though, so as this turret goes down, it's 2 objectives traded for 1 in favor of Mouse. And this game has been, well, this series has been so back and forth when it comes to who's been able to control the dragon better to start the game off. It seems like whoever gets the first dragon seems to just snowball the dragon count further and further into the game. So now at this point, Wonderwear is being given the golden experience in the top lane. Beansu is being given what's left of it in the bottom lane, although there is a bit of a stack in front of him now, so we'll get a comparative amount. And it ends up not being too bad for Wonderwear, but still, the duo lane is coming. And that means once this wave has gone from in front of Wonderwear, he's going to get zoned away again.
Yeah, he'll have to go somewhere else. Obvious, he's taking this move up here. Senko's coming to assist and just take this one away. There we go, Flash Frost will be the one to pick it up. Does he have the bird mechanics?
Bird mechanics, well, he's got blue buff now, so the bird mechanics become a whole lot easier once he hits 6. Hit R, minion wave dies. Great.
Ice bird versus sand bird in middle lane.
Well, seems like in this game, the bird truly is the word. As you know, this is gonna be a lot of farming mid lane once again. Control mages in the mid lane just results in everybody having a lot of farm and nobody really being able to kill them. So focus is going to go elsewhere. You can see Dan does cross a ward in this top lane, looking for a dive, looking once again to camp this Maokai. However, Rek'Sai is there with him, and you're trying to dive a Maokai. I'm glad to see Mouse just kind of back away from this. That is not a dive that would have gone well with that much crowd control.
No, not at all. In the bot lane, though, Cubby and Nisbet are pushing this tower in. Binsu's about to go Mega. Should be able to clear out this wave with the Wallop and the Boulder Toss, of course. So both teams just eroding these turrets on the opposite sides of the map. This is definitely different from what we've seen so far. Now, Recall coming in from Mountain may go back into that bottom lane. Wonderwear just wants to try and get as much farm as possible. Cobby actually putting points into his W here, fairly standard. Has put a point into his Q. Sometimes we just see Cogmos put all of the points into W for the early game, but sees value in that one. And BC will now just go back to base. No way he can hold this tower for another one.
This is Team Dignitas pushing up fairly heavily. I mean, also don't forget that that Q is going to be somewhat effective against a Narc, as it will reduce armor. And the resistance is there, and Binsu takes a lot of damage on that trade. He had Dan there, but they were not quite in sync. As they were pushing down, Binsu was taking a lot of free damage, and not a lot was coming back in response.
So Binsu did save his turret for now. Mountain is also going down there, so they might actually keep that tower alive for a while, especially as Dan is coming in. Cobby and Nisbet will want to go for this push onto the turrets, and that might be when Mouse reacts and try and gank them.
I mean, Cedrian is in no danger top lane right now. He has a ward in the river. He's against the Maokai, so Cobby, is he going to get pushed back? Headbutt was already used, though, so he can engage.
Teleport coming in from the top lane. Wonderwear takes a tower shot, though. There's a lot of damage coming in. Dan looking for the Q. Lands it onto Nisbet. May just jump back in here. Binsu dropping low. And Cobby did push him off to the side. Meanwhile, Senkooks is roaming down. Sayo may be cut off from his own lane at the moment. Puts up the soldier.
Another game.
Protect me.
Another game of I see you, you see me at that point.
But let's not fight.
Yeah, let's not fight this time around. They're going to take top tower in response for bottom tower when that tower actually falls in favor of Cedrian. So a very slow-paced game coming out here from both teams. This is the second turret of the game. Obviously, he's actually going to be able to jet ski his way up to the top lane and hold this one. So a little bit of a win there for Team Dignitas, holding their gold lead for about 400 gold for themselves. No dragon available for Team Dignitas though, as Mouse have already taken the first one as Team Dignitas took the first turret as well.
So Senkux has picked up a Tear of the Goddess here.
Yes.
As an early pickup for Anivia.
And he prefers Tear of the Goddess to Rod of Ages, which we've seen out of some people before. I believe this was the build Nukeduck ended up going on Roccat. That was not a successful game for Roccat. As I said, I was speaking to Senkux a little bit about his Anivia pick and his thoughts on where Anivia fits in. I actually wasn't anticipating it in this setup. As I said, they've been playing it predominantly as a mid lane pick against Civic compositions where they're looking to run at you, and it's just such good disengage. At this point, a lot of it is to prevent the Lee Sin, prevent the Na from trying to get in, and also just control the mid lane against the Azir. There's not all that much an Azir can do, because when Azir has to go in, if Anivia has passive, good luck trying to kill an Anivia under tower with Azir as you've thrown yourself into the enemy tower.
Yeah, I mean, Senkux hasn't even had to use his passive yet. Like,
right.
Hasn't even been in that position. Sayo now pushing in the middle lane with Mountain, of course. Obvious over the wall, does get the knock-up onto Sayo. Has to use the Emperor's Divide a little late on deciding to back off there. And did have to use the barrier as well. Didn't use the flash, so only using one summoner. Yeah,
Senkux didn't have the mana to follow up with the Ice Shard there. If that had landed, that would have been a massive amount of damage coming on to Sayo. And, you know, it's because that early blue buff has... This is going to sound really weird. The early blue buff has kind of hindered Senkux as we got to this point of the game, because his blue buff has spawned and he can't get to it. He needs it desperately to clear these waves out, and this is where Mao's grouping on the turret, because there's no way of Team Dignitas clearing the waves particularly quickly. And look at Dan now. They read the blue buff timing. This is such a crucial factor, but Dan is caught a little bit out here as there are 3 members of Team Dignitas, or is it Wonderwear that's caught?
Yeah, Dan gets the insect back to his team, but Wonderwear is able to use the Twisted Advance just to get out of that one. Blue buff is going to go over to Dignitas EU, absolutely fine. Dan using the ultimate there, so he's not going to have that if he's looking for a pick in the mid lane. Dignitas, or rather Mouse, confused me for a second since the first 3 games have been played on the other side of the map, but Wonderwear going to be clearing this one out. So Mouse don't get this mid lane push. The Dragon is up. This will be the second one of the game for them, and they will be prioritizing this one again. And can Dignitas actually contest this? Doesn't look like they want to.
One of the biggest reasons is Senkux, after having cleared out mid lane, he is set on 1,700 gold right now. He needs to go back and get his needlessly large rod at least, or even if he can end up getting the Ceres, I imagine it'll be the needlessly large rod, because Anivia actually stacks up here fairly quickly. So the added damage right now is going to be a lot better. Ooh, he's actually going to go Catalyst, so he's going into Rod of Ages after this.
So he's going to do both. Okay.
I
mean, goes Righteous Glory.
Just flat, incredibly quick.
That's pretty scary, right? Like Anivia coming at you full speed.
It is.
Got the streamline.
Well, what this says is Senkux is going to need a lot of time and a lot of waves in front of him just to clear out, just so that nothing really happens around this mid lane for a long period of time.
I mean, that's what's happening right now anyway, so
right.
Yes. Like, it's essentially a farm lane between these 2 guys, and from the last 3 games that we've seen, they've all gone super long, so I guess Senkux is just waiting for that to happen again. Anyway, Cobby in the bottom lane here. He's farming up Dan. Maybe he found Wonderwear once again, actually. Has been caught out by Wonderwear, or maybe, again, Dan has caught him out. Looking for the knock-up, lands it onto 2. The soldiers come in to try and zone him away with this area denial from Sayo. We'll be good to go. And Dignitas will just be back.
Speaking of Senkux and Anivia, really interestingly, as we're starting to get towards fights, there's actually been no points put in W right now. 0. 3 in Q, 5 in E, 1 in the ultimate. And you know, I was thinking back to when we did see Nukeduck play Anivia. Froggen actually put out a tweet, I believe it was, that about the best build for Anivia.
He posted a lot of tweets.
He did. But you know, he was talking about the tier Rod of Ages and how it was the best build on Anivia. It does build for late game and just builds towards this massive damage later. But Team Dignitas have to weather the storm, and you can see that Wonderwear is in trouble constantly in this game.
Yeah, maybe Binsu's in trouble now, though. Wonderwear is basically out of mana, had that Ventral Maelstrom up for a very long time, which drained his mana pool. And Obvious was there to stop him. Very almost said Dan, since seen a lot of Rek'Sai from Dan. But,
Blue buff has expired again for Senkox, and that means mid lane is open once again for Mouse. This is going to be a repeat performance throughout this game. As soon as that blue buff is gone, Senkox can no longer clear multiple waves, so the tower is easy pickings with a champion like Caitlyn on the other side.
Up until the point he has fully stacked the tier and got the catalyst as well.
Right.
Up to the Rod of Ages. But long way until that point, Stress. Up until that point, he will be using the blue buff to help with that cause. Donate towards the mana pool of Senkox. With the blue buff going over to Sayo. Has gone for the Nash's Tooth once again. We saw that last game and the game before. Goes into the right lines after that. Pretty disgusting when he has that core item build. Brought up Sayo with the ultimate, just land onto Obvious. He basically just walked away from that. That was essentially just a whiffed ultimate from Sayo.
Yeah, that's uncharacteristic error, but you know, we have seen quite a few whiffed ultimates just in this series so far. Obvious has refrained from the Gragas when he's been able to get the Rek'Sai in the last couple of games has been working a lot better for him and took it away from Dan. So I actually think that that change in the jungle has been a real big difference maker between these two teams, because if you can pretty much fix that error from game one, it really turns things around. And you can see that Team Dignitas are playing a very different style to how they were in the early set of this series.
Well, Maz are not playing a different style necessarily. Have those first two dragons, and no doubt their next proactive move will be around that. Sayo trying to get to the sanctuary of his turret here. Beansuit is now coming onto that Sundisk as well. Obvious is dropping very low. Mountain knocks him away, but actually enough damage from Sayo's red buff that came over there to finish him off. Beansuit jumps over the wall, has the Gnar, but actually great juke by Wonderwear, using the Twisted Advance to make himself invulnerable, getting out of the ultimate from Beansuit. That was a 1-0 going over to Mal as they were closing in around Sayo.
They get to set up the vision control here, though, around the lower side jungle, and that's going to result in the ability to take Dragon again in a 1:30. This series has been all or nothing on Dragons. It's been either you get the first Dragon and get all 5, or really you don't get any in a game. And that's difficult to contend with, and you know, so much of it comes from the vision control. In comes Obvious, out goes Obvious. No diving at this pool, because Obvious does not want to go in to the deep end on that one. Oh, that ult.
He's in. He's out. It's obvious.
That didn't rhyme, Paul.
No, it didn't. I
was wondering where you were going.
There was a rhyme, but it was not suitable for broadcast, so
Oh.
I had to redirect.
I see how it is.
You do?
Yeah.
This was a dumb conversation. Anyway, so
most of our conversations, so many of our conversations are just either stupid things or Simpsons quotes.
It's true, actually.
My theory on life is that Simpsons quotes can be used to explain anything.
You're not wrong. So, Senkox, be taking this blue buff here once again. Has finished up the Rod of Ages now. Still stacking up the tier. 17 minutes into this game, 2 kills have happened, 2 dragons have happened. Both of those went over to Mouse. And just 1 tower advantage. And once again, feel stressed, we're going to be in for a long one.
Yes, it's going to all be on that 6-minute timer on dragons. As neither team has really been able to break that shell, apart from in that third game. The third game where Team Dignitas had a much more solid team composition and early game. That's the problem that they're lacking in this one, is they are down, so it becomes difficult to rely on just your AD carry right now, who is fairly well farmed. Hasn't actually died. They may have caught Sayu. Long twisted advance.
And he gets knocked back into the team. There's the combo coming in from Mountain onto Nisbet. We'll be getting the Monsoon to disengage. Dan coming back into the fight. Beansu now jumps over the wall, but he doesn't have the Narbot charged up, and he's just a squishy mini Gnar. He will be jumping over the wall, gets tagged by the Arcane Shift on the way out. The Arcane Shift, the Arcane Smash coming in from Wonderwear. So no casualties, but the Dragon will go over to Dignitas. And that will stall the 5th dragon from Mouse if that was their objective this game.
The wall just cutting off Sayo at that point just was enough for Team Dignitas to start off the engage. And for once, this has actually been turned on its head. It's Team Dignitas securing the dragon, the 3rd dragon of the game after Mouse had taken 2. So as you said, if Mouse were aiming for a 5-dragon win here, it is going to take him another 6 minutes, and against an Anivia that is going to look to scale and is going to have a lot of damage the later this one goes. That may be a tough ask. However, they do have an Azir for themselves. And one good team fight setup with the Gnar ultimate could potentially still carry this one through for Mouse. They are still up. They are still ahead in both towers and dragons and the gold as well. So the problem they have to face is Team Dignitas are going to stall them out with all of this wave clear in mid lane.
Well, Dan has found Wonderwear, but this time the insect does not go well and just knocks him back to his turret with the Dragon's Rage. Gromp will be what he's going for this time around. Sayo clearing up this jungle, and Mouse are probably just going to back up again. And
Wonderwear is just getting no gold income, because every time he tries to go to a lane, it's either Cedrian or Sayo that's in front of him, and he can't take that heat right now. He is not able to sit in a lane and farm up. I don't even think he can do it against Binsu, because Binsu has himself a Black Cleaver and a Giant's Belt as well, so he's just going to trade very efficiently against Wonderwear. And we talked about it all the way through Summer Split. If you don't get gold onto your Maokai, he does not get tanky enough to become that unkillable crowd control monster that we've seen in other regions like LCK. If you ever see a Maokai fall behind, it's, you hardly ever see a Maokai fall behind unless you really put the pressure onto him because of how much gold generation they give over to a Maokai.
Yeah, never see the likes of Amaran fall behind that far. But yeah, that's also a very good point. Lots of emphasis given over to that top laner. But yeah, 80 farm to 130 in from Binsu versus Wonderwear. Big advantage. There's not a Maokai that can stand toe-to-toe with Gnar right now. Obvious in the top lane. Again, taking a page out of Dan's book. Going to go ahead and split push. Works very well on the Rek'Sai, since you can Void Rush if you pre-set up those tunnels.
You could see in that setup, though, how careful Team Dignitas had to be in this bottom lane. Wonderwear shows himself. He's got a Janna sat just around the corner. And that's what it took to keep the Maokai fairly safe. Now Kobbe is down in the bottom lane. They're going to have to give the gold over to Kobbe in this setup because this is all or nothing on whether Kobbe stays alive. So it's going to be tough for Team Dignitas to take the team fights. It won't be like the last game, because Mouse have a bit too much of a lead for it to be that convincing in the favor of Team Dignitas.
It's not necessarily all or nothing on Kobbe, as they do have the Anivia this game as well.
True,
so,
very true.
I mean, Anivia does quite a lot of damage. Has gone for the Haunting guys as well. We'll be building towards the Leandri's Torment. Still not gone for the Seraphs just yet. 170 farm. I don't feel like it will be that stacked up at this point in the game.
It's actually at 460.
We've had that for a while.
Yeah, that was a first item tier. So, I mean, Anivia, as we talked about, blue buff
characters.
For her. Yeah, I mean, it will tick up with her ultimate, but it costs a lot of mana to tick up with that tier.
I'm going to sit in base and keep my ultimate.
I'll be out in like
10
minutes, guys. Don't worry about this.
The network of tunnels. We're getting back to that turret in the middle lane. Just a Void Rush for that, so that's the ultimate down. There is no dragon up for a while. But this game has really just devolved back to what we've seen in the first 2 games of this series, which was push back, disengage, and wait for the dragons, and that will be essentially what the teams are fighting over. We've seen a couple plays being tried to be made, specifically by Dan. Some have worked, some have not. 2 have worked, as you can see. But yeah, I mean, we saw this Lee Sin come out, and you would expect a Lee Sin in the early game. That's where he really needs to shine. We've seen a couple ganks come out. One has actually worked. And now what does he do the later this game goes on? Because he's going to be a Lee Sin whose main job is just to insect people and just be an annoyance.
Right, it does become more difficult now with this ability to control areas from Senkux. I mean, if Lee Sin even crosses the ultimate from Anivia, the Ice Shard's just going to come out straight away. Wonderwear gets ulted into the wall. You can see he can't really stay in front of Binsu. The only thing keeping Wonderwear alive is that turret right now. There's Team Dignitas. Oh, there's the ace in the hole coming out onto Senkux. Not too much damage right now.
It's like long-range warfare. It's like, I'm going to ace in the whole U, I'm going to living artillery U. Put out a flash thrust. Here comes the sun disc. It is literally just siege city. 50 seconds on the dragon. I know something's going to happen there.
You'd think so. In theory, something's going to happen then. Binsu finally gets the turret down in the bottom lane. The war of attrition has been won. And, you know, no upgraded sweepers from either team yet. We got an upgraded blue trinket. Very early from an AD carry. Upgraded blue trinket before level 2 boots.
I have the gold to spend, man. Like,
yeah, I guess so. But, I mean, that's... Blue trinket upgraded before sweeper trinkets on a jungler and support is not exactly how the vision control should be going at this point. Because the other thing is, it's not like the enemy have upgraded sweepers either, so it's not like they can clear the vision away from where you'll be blue trinketing. So
well, that's the interesting thing, Stress, because over this series, neither team has really been super solid on their vision control. There was so many times that the analyst was saying where people are just walking over walls, and it's like, well, the opposing team see them, and they're just going to walk away from them now.
And that's one of the biggest differences, I think, to notice between LCS teams and a lot of the teams in Challenger is when it comes to the nuances like vision control. It's a lot more, it's a lot less reliant on vision control when it comes to Challenger, just because it tends to be, if both teams aren't controlling vision particularly well, it's an error on both sides that doesn't cancel each other out, but certainly isn't make or break. Whereas if you see an LCS team that has very good vision control against a team that doesn't have good vision control, that is a big pain point. And that usually results in a win. But this time it just results in people seeing each other and not fighting.
Yeah.
Which is
not because it's happening from both teams.
The stat lines look like it's a clean way of playing, but at the same way it's just not the most efficient. It's not the highest level when it comes to overall macro play on the map.
I mean, both teams are playing very safe, and honestly, you can't blame them when an LCS spot is on the line. Dignitas are one game away from winning this series. Mouse need to win 2 on the bounce. He's been very calm, very collected. Neither teams have made gigantic plays, because if you make that play and it doesn't work out, then you've just put yourself behind. So better to farm, better to get to a point where you feel you can decisively take a fight.
At this point, though, Mouse kind of going back a little towards what they've been doing is looking for a split push component coming from the top lane. The Frozen Heart Black Cleaver has been completed onto this now, looking either for the Hex Trinket or just looking for Mercury Treads. We'll see what Binsu ends up putting that Negatron Cloak into, or Null Magic Mantle, if you'll excuse me. However, from the mid lane, after the initial Warrior Enchant, it is now Tank looking like for the Lee Sin, which is what we always see. It's, you build that first little bit of damage, then look for Tank and somewhat just become an ult bot. But Wonderwear has to flash out. What is Wonderwear doing this far pushed up is my question. It's not a split push champion you're on there, Wonderwear. Maokai, not the greatest. Now no flash available. Leaves him a bit easier to lock down in ways.
And Mouse also saw where he retreated to. He walked through that pink ward at Dragon. 4 dragons have gone down this game. Add that to the tally. 21 in total, I believe, if my math is correct. Binsu taking this top wave, will be pushing this one in. Wonderwear should be there in time to stop him. Obvious is also there to react just in case. Looks like the entire team of Mouse is going to rotate to the top lane, try and do some damage, but Janna means that she's going to shield this one up, and the tower's going to take very little damage. Mouse will now just rotate to the middle lane. The Sun Disc has been set up by Sayo, ready for another siege. Cooks may have caught him though. The Emperor is through the wall.
Catches him with a Flash Frost though, and takes so much of Sayo's health. All of these engagements though haven't really forced the flash from Sayo. He's been so much more reliant on just QEing his way out of the fight that he hasn't been in that much danger.
No, he is not. Sayo taking away this blue buff from Dignitas. Dignitas are slowly being ground down in this game. It's definitely been slow, but Mouse have definitely gotten ahead. They have dragons going over them, they have the slight gold lead, actually not even slight, around 4,000 gold, they have the extra 2 towers, they're continually sieging in Dignitas, Dan looking for a play onto Wonderwear as well, or rather Wonderwear's just kind of there, and Obvious now goes for the engage as well, try and save his ally, but Maokai's just going to die. I'm not entirely sure what Wonderwear was doing behind them, he didn't teleport there.
No, he just kind of walked up by the looks of it from mid lane. really weird because we know how far behind Wonderwear has been. He's, you know, a good 70 CS down. He's, okay, now got 2 items completed, so is somewhat more resilient when he has his ultimate running as well. But if the rest of the team aren't on that same page, if you can't get onto the carry conclusively, it's so difficult for this team fight to go your way while you're behind. And, okay, it's a 2-item Cogmore, but the same setup isn't there. Team Dignitas just cannot be the offensive team in so many scenarios right now.
We've also got to wonder whether Wonderwear is reverting to some of the problems we had that we saw a while back, where the team didn't seem quite composed. We saw those weird TPs coming in from Wonderwear. Everyone just kind of came in one by one into fights. I mean, because that's twice now he's just been caught in random positions.
Yeah. And, you know, that's something we've seen creep into the Team Dignitas kind of play style at times. If Wonderwear does fall behind, is the decision-making can be a little bit lackluster, can be off when it comes to looking for engagers from the top lane. I mean, Wonderwear just loses half of his health bar there, has to back away. The thing is, Mouse haven't cleared all the wards out behind them. Once again, we're in a situation where neither team has fully controlled the vision. I mean, Alistair right now, still on the tier 1 trinket. Yeah. Has not upgraded to the upgraded sweeper trinket. So there's no real way of them clearing this area out. They have 2 wards, 2 pink wards in their inventory, and they're standing on maybe 5 to 7 wards in that top jungle, and had been for about a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to invest in those wards, and you know, invest that amount of time, just de-warding an area and then getting a pick from it already brings a return on investment. That's one of the biggest factors, is as long as you're not stupidly just putting pink wards down wherever, you're going to get a return from them if you play it smart.
But if you think about how much gold they've been spending on those wards, whereas the upgrade is 250 gold, like, they're not even committing that much. And it's been half an hour, but still. Dragon is up in 15 seconds, which means we're going to have an interaction between the teams.
Yes. In theory. I mean, last time
Dragon they could have just backed off, yeah.
Last Dragon came up, nothing really happened from these two. Nara's in the top lane, is building a Narbar as well, so I don't think Team Dignitas are going to want this fight. They haven't cleared vision out. Senkux is directly on top of a ward that would be great. Binsu actually lets himself go to Mega Gnar. Don't know that that's exactly the setup that they would want at this situation, because now he's going to be on that cooldown period, so that even if he does teleport in, he's going to only be able to do mini-Gnar damage, which is fairly substantial with a Frozen Heart and a Black Cleaver, but certainly won't have the impact in the team fight for a little while longer. But Mouse have been stalled away from this Dragon.
Well, Dig can just force the issue now, knowing that Beansu's not going to be Mega Gnar for a while. In fact, it's kind of been that long that he can start building up that Narbar once again. Yeah, the Living Artillery was onto the Dragon to try and force the issue. There's the Crystallize coming up to wall Mouse off. Dan is by himself in the pit. Here comes the teleport in by Binsu. Mountain goes for the engage, gets a knock-up onto Obvious. That's a Dragon going over for Mouse, the 4th one for them in this game. But Obvious is down, and Dignitas just needs to get out of here. Binsu trying to get in range, trying to build up that Narbar. Looking for the ultimate to drag someone back into his team. There's the talisman for the disengage from Dignitas. And just as he goes Mega, Dignitas are away.
Wonderweb with a very late TP. He had nowhere really to TP to, so chose a ward that was just inside the Team Dignitas jungle. And I mean, he had no impact on that fight. To be honest, Mouse didn't even need to take that fight once the TP had completed. They'd already got the Dragon. They're now on 4 Dragons, and while this is a very passive, very patient game, they're 1 Dragon away from Aspect. We're in another game, 4th game in a row, where a team is going to secure Aspect of the Dragon. And, you know, that doesn't happen particularly often when it comes to these level games, when it comes to LCS and Challenger Series.
The only thing that ever happens. you never really see the Aspect in so many games in a series.
We didn't quite get it in Game 3, though. That is a bit of a difference.
3 out of 4.
Yeah,
not bad.
But we're still not quite there. Somehow, Mouse could not get the 5th one, and Team Dignitas could just roll things over and get aspect for themselves. But that would be a long, long way.
We have seen that before as well, where both teams have been at 4 dragons. But Dignitas trying to secure some vision around the Baron area in the mid lane as well, just clearing this one out and trying to set up these waves. No Baron commands have been picked up this game. Top wave is pushing in for Dignitas, bottom lane as well. That means Beans will be going down there to try and clear it out. And there is a lot of wards on the map right now. Yeah. So, yeah, it's definitely stepping up the vision game for both teams.
Banner is going to come out from Mountain shortly, though. Still hasn't upgraded his sweeper trinket.
One day.
I mean, Greppo went pretty mad at Nukta for not upgrading his trinket.
And this is the support here as well.
And that's my biggest point of shame here in this game. Someone ring the bell, because at 33, nearly 34 minutes into a game, I would expect the support to be the first one. As soon as they hit 9 to upgrade that trinket. I mean, it can't be that much of an oversight, because when you use that trinket, which I've seen Mountain sweeping every so often, you know you don't get the oracles.
Yeah, he's like,
so it's just like, oh, Wicked will be so happy.
Oh, the Hurricane has been built with the rest of the build, with the Frozen Mallet, the Black Cleaver.
So, this may be a new audience that is seeing this. So we should explain why Hurricane on Na has been a thing in the European Challenger Series.
All right.
So this is a build Wicked brought to for European Challenger Series brought to our scene on Na, where you go Frozen Mallet, Black Cleaver into Hurricane. What it does is build the Naba exceptionally quickly, because it just builds up very, very fast, has a lot of mini-Na damage, does make you a lot less tanky when it comes to Mega Na. You only really get the resistances that just come from the shapeshift. But you can see how quickly Binsu just transformed. Gives him great split push potential as well, and it's very difficult to actually, for Wonderwear now, to sit in front of Binsu and do anything. So Binsu's going to be able to charge up very fast when he gets into a fight. And, you know, this build is undefeated in the European Challenger Series. I believe it is 3-0.
Yeah.
So it's now on Binsu.
Don't mess with that.
This is quite funny.
It's also very good against lots of melee targets, because what are they going to do? They're just going to get kited, and even if there's 3 of them running at you, you can kite all 3 of them at the same time. Does a lot of damage to multiple targets. Remember, Hurricane applies on-hit effects on the little arrows that come out, so it applies both Frozen Mallet and the Black Cleaver. So to multiple targets, he's going to be shredding them.
What I will say is I'm still not particularly convinced. Okay, so I'll explain that. I'll quantify it, because the lack of tankiness makes for the likelihood of getting punished on a missed position so much more tough to avoid. Yeah. Because if you jump in and you're not Mega Na, you die really quickly.
We've seen that.
And we've seen it. We've seen that happen where, you know, one wrong jump just takes you out of the game completely. So that's why I'm not particularly sold on it as a build for every situation. But if you're looking to split push, if you're looking to kite back in team fights, then why not go for this build?
And this is very much that situation where he is 100 farm ahead of Wonderwear. He can definitely take him in a one-on-one, so he's going to be split pushing. When we get into these fights as well, he's had so much time to farm. He's hit this core item build of this unconventional build, so it will work out great. But we haven't hit a major team fight just yet in this game. 30 seconds to go on the next dragon. This could be Aspect coming in from Mouse, and then if this game is to follow like the others, they should be able to close it out. Obvious caught on a Yordle snap trap. Will be clearing out this vision, trying to get towards this area to try and secure this vision before the dragon comes up. This is very important for Dignitas to try and contest.
However, Dan is looking to go aggressive once again. Out comes the Anivia ult. That Glacial Storm just tags Dan, and Dan can't go in, because as soon as he does, he's going to lose half of his health to the Ice Shard that comes out after.
Yeah, Frostbite does a bunch of damage on Froster targets. You don't want to stay Frosty in this situation. Jump over the wall. Obvious does not get the steal, and he will be going down as he flashes over that one. There's the wall coming up, and Binsu. That's a lot of damage coming in from Kobe. He's been farming all game. He's sat on 3 items. That is the 7th aspect of the Dragon in EUCS, and most of those aspects have come from this series.
3 of them. 3 have come from this series, and you know, when you look at it in Europe as a whole, there have only been, in the entirety of the summer split, there have only been 10 in the European LCS. So that gives you an idea. There have been 3 in this series so far.
And remember, EUCS is shorter than LCS.
Yes.
So yeah, you can definitely see where that one comes from. Dan, Mountain, in fact, the whole team of Mouse just went for Baron and took it because they have Aspect and they can do what they want.
Okay, 5th Dragon and Baron in favor of Mouse. Put Nara in the side lane. Nobody can go up against him. Then you've got a Caitlyn and an Azir in the other lane, and all you've got to do is
Look at him.
Avoid the engage.
Watch that wave clear. And also, the Hurricane will proc the passive damage from the Dragon as well.
So much damage.
So you get the true damage, you get the shred from the Black Beaver, you get the slow. Unbelievable though.
So what can win Team Dignitas this game is the question. Well, they've got to wait out the Dragon, the Aspect somehow, and then create a flank threat, which is easier done than said this time around because there's so many wards out behind Mouse. So actually pulling it off is a lot easier to do than normal.
Yeah.
If Mouse haven't cleared everything out. Upgraded Sweeper Trinket on Mountain. Yes!
There we go.
Winner.
Nailed it.
It only took
winner, chicken dinner. Okay, bot lane, Beansuit still pushing in with this minion wave. Remember, Senkux has a lot of wave clear, but not a lot of wave clear against that cannon minion, which is all the way back there, and he can't reach it.
Come on,
he
walk
literally
into the
cannot
store.
reach it.
Just needs a gust of wind.
Ooh, in the bot lane, look at that damage from Beansuit. He might just get the 1v1 kill. He's going to go Mega. Wonderware didn't get the lockdown as he went underneath this turret. Mid lane is heating up. The tower is dropping low here, looking for that Piltover over the center. All those Yordle snap traps are making it very difficult to get in range and protect their turret. It will be going down just to those cannon minions, that promoted cannon minions doing so much work. Senkux has been tagged up and a Q here from Dan. Looking for a potential engage. The Janna will be prolonging this for a little bit longer. In comes the teleport by Beansuit. He's going to be back at full HP. Senkux comes into the bottom lane to try and secure this. Make sure that tower stays up. The middle inhibitor goes down. Mouse are using their buffs and they're just trying to close this game out.
They are, and Beansu, he's been stalled out in the bottom lane only because Anivia came down there, which opened up middle lane for Mouse to crack through. Only 5 kills in this game. We've averaged a kill every 8 minutes right now, as Mouse are the only ones with kills to their name. And now they've got an inhibitor down and a turret down in the top lane as well. They're backing away for now, looking to reset, but once their Baron buff expires, this push becomes difficult once again against the Anivia. Anivia isn't a word. It's close.
Very close. Okay, protect the cannon minion, and he will take this tower for you. And meanwhile, in the top lane, Dan has found obvious. He's going to get bounced into the Emperor's Divide as well. Still has the Q. Will he go full Lee Syndrome? Not today. The top turret is dropping very low. It will go down. Mals are still pushing in. Cedrin is healthy, so is Mountain. Dan's a little bit low. Senkux can't quite get the burst down. Jumps forward, tries to get the execute into Sayo. Looks for the flash shots. It will be flashed away by Sayo in the bot lane. Beansu is going ham against Wonderware. Obvious will have to go back to base to try and contest this, and he will be able to do so, but that is all 3 inhibitors going down from Dignitas. Super minions will stream in every single lane. Dragon is up in 2 minutes. This looks like the game to lose from Mousesports here, Stress.
We might get a second aspect in this game right now. Mouse couldn't close the game out with the Baron and the aspect, but they've certainly put themselves in a position to do so. Team Dignitas somehow need to get themselves just a Hail Mary of a team fight, but they haven't even looked like they can get a single kill in this game. There's been almost no aggression coming out from Team Dignitas because of how passive this game has had to be. Yep. Wonderware fell so far behind that he couldn't create plays across the map. And from there, they had no real engage potential. Janna doesn't offer it. Rek'Sai is difficult to do, and every time Obvious has gone in, he's been punished for it. So it's resulted in this style where Team Dignitas have had to just sit back and accept what is coming towards them in the form of a Mouse lineup that's just going to push turrets down very quickly.
And that works up until the point where Anivia can't clear the Baron minions.
Right.
Because it was working fine up until that point, but what are you going to do against supers? What are you going to do against promoted minions? Basically nothing. And they have to go for this Hail Mary, as you mentioned, Stress. Wonderwear is into the back line, maybe a little too early on the trigger, and that's a great Emperor's Divide splitting up the team. Everyone's going to wall each other off. Mountain coming in from the left-hand side is able to get the CC down. That's the kill onto Wonderwear. The headshot comes through, lives up to its name. Nisbet, Senkux, and Kobe are just trying to get out, but super minions are streaming in for every single lane, and I don't even think they can clear out the minions here, Stress.
I don't think they can. This is too much in front of them to actually deal with. Team Dignitas are just getting sieged down by a million minions right now.
The floodgates have opened. Mouse are going to close out this game. It was slow, it was decisive, it was methodical, but in this fourth game, Mouse will even up the series 2-2-2.
If there's one way of testing your opponent's limits when it comes to a best-of-5 series, an Anivia wave clear composition is going to be the one, but it wasn't successful for Team Dignitas. That was another long game. This one 43 minutes, 10 minutes shorter than the first game of the day, but Mouse, it wasn't particularly decisive, but it was clean from Mouse. They never looked in trouble from moment one, because Wonderwear just ended up so far behind. And to be honest, so much of that started from just the flash being down level 1, and then the attempt of a gank mid lane from Wonderwear when he had no flash and just died. That was one of the only kills in that game. 6 kills, and that one happened at like 2.5 minutes.
Well, this is exactly what we said about Mousesports as we came into this matchup. What they played and what worked for them was simple and clean, and they don't have to be flashy. They don't have to be SKT. And that's what they did here. They played it slow. They had a game plan. We go for the dragons. We fight over them. We get picks. We do everything we can to secure those. They only gave up 1. They got 5, and they closed out the game. It was as simple as that.
Yeah, it was that simple. And again, Team Dignitas never looked like they could threaten at all. In the entire game, there never seemed to be a play where you thought Team Dignitas were looking to get a kill. And it is because of their setup. It is because of that early game of Wonderwear falling behind, but from there, I just feel like this Anivia pick was it wasn't random in the sense that, you know, we don't expect Senkux to play it. It just didn't feel like it meshed too well with the rest of the comp when it comes to actually playing from behind.
Yeah, the question is, was it worth it? And I'm not entirely sure. It was a lot of eggs in that basket. But we're going to go to Game 5, ladies and gentlemen. So for an analytical eye on how Mousesports brought us there,